Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. This is Monday, May 5th. I'm sorry, June 5th, 2023. I'm still thinking it's May, but it's June. Hope you all are doing well. If you're just checking in, this is my Monday night live stream that I do every Monday, if everything goes well. And I haven't missed but a few over the past couple years, I think. And this is a setup to where we, as a group, tend to talk about classic cars. That's kind of the goal. Mustangs, Camaros, Mopars, whatever it may be. And I encourage anybody who is watching or participating, if you have questions or comments or things you want to discuss, bring them up. We always need new content and new ideas to talk about and share information with each other. We've resolved a lot of problems doing that over the last couple of years, really. Somebody may have an issue, and if I don't have an answer that I can help them with, usually my chat box is over there. Usually somebody in the chat box has a good answer and can help out with the situation. So I encourage you to get interested, be involved. If you would, hit the thumbs up button, and don't be afraid to leave a comment in here so I know you're here, and we'll go on from there. It's been an interesting past few days, let's say. You probably may have seen the video that I posted that we'd made the trip down to Florida and picked up the RV, and that was a good trip. Few minor things to deal with later on, but we picked up, Robert and I, the Infernal Craftsman, picked up the RV. We met from there. We went to NPD where we met Rick Stevenson, and we were able to hang out and take a tour of the NPD car collection with the owner, Rick Schmidt. And that was pretty exciting. Didn't know what to expect. Hadn't been there before, obviously. And, we went in. I was thinking, well, there might be 50, 60 cars. I have no idea. There's a lot more than that in there. And the facility is pretty impressive, the whole thing. It's all really cool. And after we may discuss more of this later, but after we went through and did the bulk of it, we had looked at most of everything there. Rick ended up joining us because we had planned on having him join our tour, but he had other things he had to take care of, and then he caught up with us later. So it was a lot of fun and interesting to hear the stories and have him talk about what's going on around there. What I think is probably one of the cooler things when you put this in perspective. Rick's well-to-do guy. He's got a huge business, obviously a huge car collection. And he was more than willing to listen to us ramble on about our stuff as well. And at the end of it, our little tour, I kind of jokingly said to him, hey, as I was walking around, I was trying to find a place to put one of my Joe Daddy's Garage stickers. And he was like, oh, go put it on the front door. I'm like, what? He said, go put it around the front door. And I was like, okay. So on the way out, I sure enough went over there and stuck it on. There were other stickers there from other people. They were on the inside of the building. Mine was the only one on the outside of the building. So hopefully it stays there, and maybe others will see it. I said I told people, if you go there, take a picture of it, send it to me so I know. And along with that, probably one of the neatest things beyond that whole interaction with Rick and everything was myself and Robert and Rick. Our Rick had gone into the store together, and we were picking up some parts as well. And while we were doing that, Robert went to use the facilities. He has been on the road, got to take care of things. And there was one other person in there getting, at least I think it was two, and then there was one that was picking up parts. And that person came back and said, when Robert was passing him, he's like, with a obviously English accent, British accent, something to the effect of, I recognize your mate, kind of thing. And so we ended up talking to him, and sure enough, the guy was from England, him and his wife, and they recognized me from my YouTube channel, which I thought was really cool. I'll give myself a bell for that. And I think his name was, if I remember correctly, it was Kenny, I believe. And he said he works on Mustangs over there, and it was actually here in the States to buy parts to take with him on the plane. He said it was cheaper for him to buy parts, fly over, buy parts, and fly back with his stuff, I guess, in his suitcase, than it would be to ship the stuff. So hopefully I get to hear from Kenny again. I think that's right, Kenny. And he said that he wanted to do a Viewers Project video thing with me. And I said, by all means, put something together, and I'll put it up on the channel. So shout out to Kenny for recognizing me from, being here from England. So anyway, that's about it for the opener. Let's see who's here tonight, and we'll check. See, first in is Rick Gain. Hello, all. Looking forward to some good conversation tonight. Thank you, Rick. Glad you're here. That's right. I give a bell, participation bell. It's kind of a little system I have going on. Mr. Cyrano, how's everyone doing? Thumbs up, I hope. Oh, there we go. Thumbs up, I hope. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Cyrano. And Jerry checking in from the Money Pit in Middle Tennessee. There we go. Thumbs up. Thank you. And Charles, Pensacola has pleasant weather, and it's time to hit the like and subscribe button. Use the share button. Let your friends be exposed to Teddy's Garage. Well, okay. Careful. Sometimes, somebody might word that wrong and go, oh, get him arrested. Leonard, evening all. How's everyone doing? Glad you're here, Leonard. And Leonard, I know you had a question earlier. You emailed me. We might talk about that some more tonight if you want to address that and bring it up. Steve Grimes, good evening from warm South Central PA. Glad you're here, Steve. Yeah, I was just checking the weather here. It's obviously been warm. It's June. It should be warm. And it looks like for this next week and a half, our bracket is mid-60s is our lows, and 80, mid to high 80s is our range. So not too bad. Not yet anyway. But glad to hear, Steve. Robert checking in. Evening all. Tomorrow's our last day of spring. Then back to 95 degrees. It's been a nice, cool spring. Yes, it has. And maybe Robert can remember. I'm pretty sure that gentleman's name was Kenny. Busted Knuckle Garage. Tommy checking in from Birmingham. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Glad to hear, Tommy. Dave Tyson. Evening all. Evening, Dave. Troy Justit. Good evening, Barry. Good evening from coastal Georgia. Love the tour of cars at NPD. Wish I could have been there. You know what? I think he would have been happy to have even a bigger crowd there. But our timing, I forget who. I know somebody else had planned to meet us there, and I can't remember who it was. And our timing was way off. We wanted to be there at noon. We didn't get there till like 2 o'clock or so, maybe even later. I don't remember exactly. And of course, Rick Stevenson met us there. So I don't remember who the other person was, but they couldn't wait that long, I guess, because I was trying to update everybody with Facebook posts. I didn't know how else to contact anybody, so that's what I'm doing. But yeah, it really, really neat. I could probably spend a lot more time there, but I feel like everything viewed that was in that facility. So, and they probably have more somewhere else. I don't know, but it was pretty impressive. Dave Britton, hi everyone. I hope all is well. Glad you're here, Dave. Tommy, getting some work done on my 59 Impala, known affectionately as Rusty. You know what? That is probably the most common name or nickname for any of these vehicles that we have. It's an easy one to go with. But glad you're getting work done on it. Betty Keithley. I got out of hospital today. Terry's having trouble with his phone. I told him to use my phone. As always, give a thumbs up and hit the like button. Betty and Terry Keithley. Glad you're here. Betty and Terry. Look, there's a picture of my cat. You always want to know. There's a picture. I got a picture of my cat. So that way you know that I like my cat right there. Evans Garage. Hi all. Hope everyone is well. Very excited about the CJ engine bay. Yes. Yeah, it's coming along. Everything's taken apart. Got to get the other pieces addressed and get them, test fitted and everything back in there. So it is coming along. Bob Shoemaker, good evening from 90-degree Oklahoma. I'm not ready for this heat, but it's here. Glad to hear, Bob. You know, that's the thing, too. We've talked about the La Nina or El Nino or whatever affecting our temperatures dramatically this summer, supposedly. And I know the Northeast is supposed to be getting a lot of heat, a dry heat, I think. And the South is supposed to be cooler. We'll see how that goes. Don's Manufactory. Hello, everyone, from sunny, warm PDX. And he says 90 degrees tomorrow. Glad to hear, Don. You know, I basically kind of listened to your, I think it's your latest video, where you're prepping Betsy for the paint. And I must say, you go into a lot of research on what you're doing, and that's a good thing. I know that you were talking about the paint process and being so far away from it and how temperature and all that stuff affects it. If you haven't seen, Don's videos, by all means, check out Don's Manufactory and look what he's doing, because good stuff, really good stuff overall. I'll be honest, Don, I have never gone into that kind of depth of thinking, and I don't know if it's because I just kind of, I hate to say I'm winging it in a sense, but whenever we had like the body shop and my buddy did all the paint work, I just watched. That's kind of what how I learned anything. And generally when I have a question, I'll message my PPG rep, and he'll give me some insight to help me get through what I'm trying to work on. And probably overall, I've had just good luck doing it that way. But it would be nice to have some like a flow chart. You know what I mean? A lot of times in businesses, they'll have a flow chart like, did you break it? Yes. Can you fix it? No. Did anybody see it? Yes. Tell somebody. Yes. Those kind of flow chart things. So it'd be nice to say, okay, this temperature, ... run with this blah blah, this reducer, whatever. It would be nice to have something like that, and there may be something out there. I don't know, but I'm just saying it's good information that you're putting out, Don. So I think I gave you a bell. You get an extra bell. Ed Cucciarella, 66 and overcast in Southern California. That actually sounds pretty nice, Ed. I would take that. Overcast is fine. Jerry is commenting to Betty. I pray you are doing well. Yes, glad to hear, Jerry. Roger checking in from next door. Glad to hear, Raj. Troy is talking to Robert. Did you get your front suspension all buttoned up? I've been waiting for an update. There you go. Jerry, howdy Barry, howdy y'all, coming at you from the 928. Oops, not the 928. That's a car or something. Love watching the trip and then hearing all about it. Thank you. Yes, I did get a little grief from the 928. Hey, I'll be honest. Walking around, I can identify just all the American cars. Yeah, I can relate to every one of those. The Porsche, it could have been anything. It could have been any Porsche. I would not have probably given it any more attention than what I did, and not to disrespect the car or anything. I just don't know. So I go, oh, there's a Porsche. Yay, that's what it is. Okay, let's move on to the Camaro, kind of thing. Crash Rider, good evening to everyone from a warm and pleasant southern Indiana. Welcome to the new channel, Have Motorhome Will Travel, featuring J Daddy himself. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Yes. Yeah, that's another thing I have to come up with. Because I'm going to have to put something on the side of the vehicle, right? It may be magnets that I put on the doors, kind of thing. And I'm just thinking either simply enough, on the road with Joe Daddy's Garage, something like that on the side, and then a little underneath, follow me on YouTube type of thing. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it was an experiment with this trip. Robert and I, I had bought that camera, didn't really have time to mess with it. And so we were getting ready to, getting close to leaving. And I kind of tossed him the camera and said, here you go, your navigator, figure it out. So he ended up figuring out the camera to get it to work. And obviously there was a lot of footage through that sequence of the travels. but it's like, well, I don't want to bore people with conversations about chicken sandwiches or whatever. So we didn't really do that, but I tried to make it relevant to what we were trying to do. So in the future, when my wife and I are doing this, you may hear just, I don't know, I may just start telling my wife dad jokes or something. I don't know, because we've been together obviously 30 some odd years now. I mean, 34 years we've been together. So there's really not much we can talk about that's going to be overly interesting, I don't think. Whereas, Robert and I, we just talk the whole way back, just keeping each other occupied. Let's see. Dave Britton, celebrity status starting. Well, okay. I have had occasions, even locally, some people have recognized me and different things like that. So not a bad thing, I guess. Rick Stevenson checking in. Glad to hear, Rick. Hope all is well. Evans Garage, question about engine bay finish. I've heard stock with semi-gloss or satin black. What are folks' preference? Glossier is easier to keep clean, but too glossy would look wrong. Well, if you look at that video that I put up, the NPD video, and was it 67 or 68? We were talking about the black car, the 70, and we were commenting one of those two. I don't remember which now. I think it was the green 67 or 68. We were commenting on the way the runs and stuff were on the shock towers, and how they just kind of threw it at it and didn't care what it looked like. So it's a difficult question to answer. It's in what you want it to look like. Now, I know I've used the DP90 epoxy, like on the light blue Mustang that I did years ago. I used that because it's a tough finish and cleans up fairly decent. But it's really, you can have both. I mean, you can actually have a shiny finish, but you can also kind of have a dull or satin finish that would still be relatively easy to clean. So any other advice or opinions out there, they're welcome. Good question. Let's see. Wild Bill, 101 in Tucson, Arizona. Hi, Barry. Hi, Bill. 101, but it's low humidity, right? And he says slow reducer required. Yeah, I'll bet. Donnie Williams, greetings. Glad you're here, Donnie. Leonard, he started asking a question. Leonard was saying, Robert, do you know anything about the San Antonio Auto Salvage Yard? Seen a lot of Mustangs that would make a good project. So there's a question for Robert. I don't know if he has an answer for that. Jerry, I'm just teasing, but for some reason that is my favorite one of any of the 80s Porsches. Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I just don't. Was that used like in a movie or something? Like Risky Business or something like that? Didn't they have a Porsche in that movie? I think it's what they used. Drove it into the lake or something. I could be wrong. We can talk about movies if you want. Let's see. Robert's talking to Troy. All good as it can be till I get a rear axle and get it on the ground. Okay. Jerry is saying Robert has talked more than enough for the 15 years we've been together. Well, I'll be honest. He did comment. He said that he and I have probably talk more than we to each other than we do to our spouses. Give you a bell for that. Rick Stevenson, you will recognize that NPD. Yes. And I didn't. I don't feel like you both can probably relate. I didn't. I don't feel like I let it go to my head or anything. I happened to have a sticker with me, and so I went over and talked to him. Said, "Hey, blah blah blah." I said, "Hey, I guess saw you recognize me," and I started asking him, "What are you working on?" and wanted to know. That was kind of the approach, and he, sure enough, was telling me what he was doing and everything, and so I wanted to make sure he had a sticker. said, if you're going to recognize me, at least give you a sticker. It's the best I can do. Robert's talking to Leonard. Don't know anything about it. San Antonio's about 4.5 hours drive from here. Well, that's right around the corner in Texas. That's like running down to the gas station, from what I hear. Yeah, I don't know what the relation is. San Antonio. I know, like, you fly over Texas, it's not an hour flight. It's quite the flight. Nick says hello. Glad you're here, Nick. Jerry says, yeah, risky business. See, that's why you like it. It's from that movie, wasn't it? Yep. Tom Cruise. I know what you were doing. Yep. Nick, so this Winnebago you bought is like a thing to go to people and help with their cars. I got some glass I need help with when I get my turd barrel back. To a turd barrel. Just saying. That is the goal, Nick. I don't know when that's all going to happen. Okay, there are priorities that have to be addressed first. I'm not going to be in the middle of the Mach 1 project and say, hey, we're up and leaving. We're going to be gone for whatever time. So the experiment at this point is one, to get a feel for the vehicle and go locally. We have some friends who have camper too, and we'll probably go to some local places just for the weekend, get a feel for it. I also am picking up a tow dolly from a buddy of mine, and we have to, kind of practice hooking up, towing it, and I want to be very comfortable before we say, hey, let's go, and something goes wrong on the way. It's better to figure that out in a local sense than to drive to wherever. But yeah, that's the plan, is to do that, is to get on the road, and it'll probably be next year, I think. Robert says, any cars in a junkyard in Texas have their titles surrendered to the state, so they're not able to be back on the road, assuming they're acting as a junkyard. I wonder if that's still true, even with, like, Georgia doesn't require a title for something that old. I wonder if that crosses over, because you can buy anything that's 25 years or older here in Georgia with no title. So I don't know how that works if it's been surrendered. Jerry says, I did my engine bay with a single stage white over epoxy. I can tell you that if you're changing the engine, it is exposed to damage if you bump the firewall or the aprons. Ask me how I know. Yes, very much open to something getting nicked or chipped. So, Ray Buckman, evening all. Hey Barry, great cars at NPD. Yes, it is. It was quite the collection. And it's kind of. My stool is crooked here. It's like, I don't know how to word it. I don't want to say eclectic. I don't want to say that it's full of oddities, but it's a mix. But then there's stuff like a whole bunch of big Lincolns, and I mean I know there's variations of each, several years and stuff like that. And I think what you run into, and again, this isn't a negative at all, is the fact that he has those is incredible. Because how many people are buying up like those old Lincolns and stuff like that, and trying to keep them, together and running and nice, or restore them, right? So you've got unique cars like that the general public isn't even interested in anymore. There's some that were the mid '80s kind of Lincolns, where it's a weird angles and stuff like that. That, in its day, it was probably a nice car to look at, but as time has gone on, the styling has just not held up. But so I give him all the credit for what he has. There's a lot of unique vehicles. The Thunderbirds. I know that he said his dad, I think, was into the Thunderbird stuff. The one car, I probably didn't get this on video. If I did, I don't remember. There was so much footage. I tried to keep things rolling. The one car was belonged to the woman who saved the files for the Mustangs, that created the Marty Report. And he gave a story about how all that came about. And this was her car, and she was apparently a very small woman, and she had bought that Firebird. It was a red Firebird in the video. That she bought this car, and then she couldn't drive it because she was too short. She couldn't reach the pedals right, and so they ended up just sitting. And then he ended up buying it from her or her estate, one of the two. Just kind of unique things like that. The black 70 fastback or sport roof, being that it was such an odd car, it wasn't even a Mach 1, but it had every option that you could think of, and it was a 428 Cobra Jet. So he had said they think Lee Iacocca actually ordered that car, and he was telling some stories about that as well. Just oddities within the whole facility and the history of a lot of that stuff is really cool. I could go back and do it all again if I could spend more time with Rick and listen to everything he had to say about each one of those cars. I would film it all. I think it would be pretty interesting. Let's see, Nick, you sound like you need to practice installing glass in the St. Louis area like in a month. You're killing me. Yeah. I think if that were the case, I'd probably just fly out there, Nick, to be honest. It's too far to drive to put in a windshield. Troy says, I'm going to say it, bring it to Georgia, and they will license it. More than likely. Nick, I'm so scared about the glass, I can't even express it. Well, it's not that hard, Nick. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. I know it's easy to say that, but don't overthink it. Doyle, were there any Mustang 2s or Mach E's in NPD collection? I didn't see any in the video. No, there weren't. Thankfully. No, there weren't. I'm glad it wasn't a Mach E. I'm glad of that. Glad of that. But there were no Mustang 2 variations. Surprisingly enough. I mean, I guess there is a ongoing kind of market for those. I think people who grew up, let's say in more of that time period with those cars available, kind of have a desire to get one again. I don't know what the production is on any of those. We know the early ones were pretty weak overall. I think came with 4 cylinders or 6 cylinders, and then later on, whatever year, I don't know, they put a V8 in it. And those can be pretty incredible little cars if you build them up and get rid of all the smog junk and all the low compression engine stuff that they had. So they can be a lot of fun. But no, there was nothing like that there. I was surprised there was a Studebaker in there. Did not expect to see that. So that I give him credit again for that. The just odd stuff. Those prototype vehicles or show vehicles. The Tempo, it said on the windshield, this car was destroyed in 1984. That was kind of funny. Let's see. Nick, well, the paint around it. Wait, what? The paint around it is $45,000 now, so that's end of the tunnel. At least on that, the fiberglass work sank my battleship pretty bad. Never wanted it to get that far for sure. Wait, Nick, what? Hold on a second. Am I reading that correctly? Let me take a sip of coffee and think about that for a second. 45,000. Now, what is it? Is that the whole car? The whole project? Like your cost involved and the paint work and all the finish work and a full tank of gas and all that? Is that where you were at with that? Is that what you're saying? Because I know you had talked about painting it and all that sort of stuff, but okay, paint, final body work, and fiberglass. But you're not talking about the car itself or anything else. Is that what I'm hearing? Because is that what I'm hearing? Doyle says you have 45,000 in paint? Question mark. Okay, Robert says they should do the glass for that price. Yes. And Nick says no. I have about 50K in part that I worked on. Whew. Okay. All right. Well. Okay. Oh. Okay. That's a hefty. That's hefty. That yeah. I don't have much to say, Nick. I don't have much to say. So I hope the thing looks like $1 million when it's done. Okay, so let's see. Michael Pagliarini. Hello, all. Late to the party. I really enjoyed the NPD tour. Can't imagine the money invested in that collection. Yeah, I can't either. Richard Roar. Okay. Glad you're here, Richard. Donnie Roebuck. Hey, Barry. Hi, Barry. Cool hat. Yeah, it is a cool hat. Look at that. It's getting a little dirty, though. Getting a little dirty. I might have to get another one sometime. Trade you. Glad you're here, Donnie. Yeah, I heard there's, you might have some information on that whole building. I heard that you might know something about the NPD building. You know, you might. Nick, she's in the neighborhood of 100K now. I'm a little upset. I have a whole story behind this dude. I'm happy with the work, but not the shop. Okay. Well, that's a lot of money. I just have to say it. It's a lot of money. I agree. That's a lot of money. So I'm hoping that it's everything you wanted and it's fantastic and it does everything you expect it to, and it wins shows and all that sort of thing. I mean, I know I've heard it run. I've seen what you've done, the customized work and stuff like that. It's probably going to be very, very impressive, and I hope it is. I really do. Richard, Nick, you need a new body man. That price should be covering full restoration, not paint. Dawn, Betsy's project is climbing north of 20,000 now that paint is involved. Yeah, paint adds up quick. I will say that. We all know that. It adds up really, really quick. Doyle, call a professional glass man for sure if you're that deep in at this point, in my opinion. That's probably not a bad idea, Doyle. But I don't know of many of them that can do those kind of windshields anymore. That's the difficulty. Donnie, all of the cars in NPD collection owned by NPD are all of the cars in NPD collection owned by NPD, or are some of them on loan from other collections? My understanding is those are all his cars. That's what. Now, I will say there was one car in there that he said he was storing for a friend of his, and that was the 69 Shelby GT, the greenish looking one with the pointed nose on it. I think that's that one he said he was storing for a friend of his. But otherwise, those are all his vehicles from what I understand. Nick says, well, I agree now after the fact, but the restoration shops around here all start at $85 an hour and up. That would try to get it done this summer, but yeah. Charles, maybe you should document all the runs in my front metal. I remember we were puzzled by the extent of it. Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. The only way I could really document any runs at this point is whatever is in the video or videos, because a lot of that already had rust and all that sort of thing, and didn't even consider the idea prior to getting a blasting done. So, and it's one of those things where certain engine line or certain assembly lines, they had one guy that was doing this and spraying it, or they might have had another guy spraying it another day. So you could have variations from each car to each car, and it's almost one of those things where unless you have to me, like the same kind of spray gun, same kind of paint, the same settings, it's really difficult to replicate that. The difficulty being you don't know how it was done. So it's like if it's like if you did, somebody did a painting and you try to copy that. If you're not a master painter who knows their style and brushstrokes, you'll never get it to look just like that. So with these cars, the idea being let's just throw paint at it and hope that those runs come out the same way. It's a shot in the dark. You'll never, to me, you won't replicate it exactly like they did. And if you were to focus on that, nothing against it. If you're doing one of these grease pencil restoration type things, but you really have to have that knowledge of what they did to make it look like that. Otherwise, you could be spraying something on and realize that, oh, that ran too much. Now what do I do? Now you're backtracking, stripping all that back off, and starting over in a sense. So if it was a Concours d'Elegance, one of those cars that has every single thing exact and every grease mark and all those things perfect, there's probably not much to gain from that overall. Just the way I look at it. Let's see. Evan's Garage. Don, me too. All in car and parts and probably 25,000, but all work done by me so far. Yeah, and that's the thing too. When you're doing, your own labor, obviously you don't count that generally. Jerry says, in my car, 66, I have about 20,000 in the project, and there's still more to spend. Yeah, there's always more to spend. Always. Ray Buckman, I saw one that had a Colorado tag. Yeah, there was a variety of tags in there, actually. So these didn't just come from Florida or whatever. These were around the country that he picked these up. And it's kind of cool they left those tags on there or, kept that connection. I thought that was nice. Nick, I want to say I could afford a Pro Glass Guy, but the price of this is a little misleading. I've been working overtime constantly and gotten a loan out already. I'm baked for cash. Really depressed. Don't be depressed about it, Nick. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the numbers. And obviously, you're making the money to pay it. You're going to pay the loan or work and make the money. And it's the difficulty is you're in a realm where you're not comfortable, right? You don't want to paint it yourself, and you're going with somebody who has a reputation or can do what you want them to do. And sometimes you have to pay the piper to get that done. But if it comes out as your dream car at the end, well, then you can justify the cost, the way I look at it. Nick honestly makes me hate the car to a point. It will be nice, yes, but I don't know. Well, it's also one of those things where you're in now. You're not going to stop. You got to get it done. That's the reality of it. Otherwise, you're going to eat the cost of everything when you try to sell it to somebody else. So get it done and enjoy the car. Dawn, Evan, 20K plus, not including the car. Okay, yeah. Evan, yeah, I got mine a while ago. I can't find a shell now for the same price. That's another thing. It's adding up quick. Nick, you guys with the 20,000, 30,000 budget have to realize I nearly have that in my suspension, brakes, and fuel system. It's not a common restoration. Yes, I agree. I can't wait to see it all together, honestly. I know it's going to be an impressive car. I know that. Dave, Barry, when you get set up with the motorhome, what places were you thinking of visiting? That is a good question. I don't know. Like I had somebody comment, says, yeah, come out to California. That's probably not going to happen. That's probably out of the range of what I want to do. Initially, we're probably going to shoot, I'm guessing, just to see how it works out, 200 to 300 miles would be like the radius, let's say, and we'll see how that works out. If it's something closer, great. If it's in that range, right now that's kind of what I'm looking at, because you have to justify all the costs involved of getting there, and of course the whole process. It needs to be obviously whoever I'm going to go help out with on their project, they need to have materials and parts and be available, and we have to arrange all of that. So there will be probably some sort of, I hate to say vetting process, but something along those lines, because I can bring tools and equipment with me, but I can't bring like the whole side of a car and put it on. I'm not going to do that. It has to be something they already have. Then it may be as simple as doing some body work, or even doing some welding. I may just load up one of my welders and bring it with me, and we'll see how that goes. It's going to be nothing's written in stone as of yet as to what the task will be or how we're going to manage it. We're still kind of figuring that out. But good question, Dave. Thank you. Leonard, well, I'm in just about 1,000. I'm in just about 1,000 just in front end and rear bushings, and I guess next, it says next springs. Yeah. Any more of this stuff adds up really fast. We were looking for just to see if we could find a quarter panel, a driver's side Dynacorn 69 fastback quarter panel, because apparently they're not around. And Robert found some. They were on eBay. I think they were going for like $800 or $900. I can't remember which now. And the guy had like 3 of them. So I think the cost on those, I think recently, is around $500. And this guy's put them on eBay for $800 or $900, from what we found. So hopefully some of the supply stuff gets straightened out, and we can get these start getting pieces and parts again like we need. Doyle says, question: can you apply fiberglass filler over rust encapsulating paint, and will it need to be scuffed with 40-80 grit paper first? Rust encapsulating paint. Well, that's a good question, because usually that paint, if I remember, like the Pour 15 or Chassis Saver or something like that, that's a very hard paint, as in it's like nothing will stick to it, or not. It's not supposed to stick to it. So I don't know for sure what the process is at that point. I don't know what area of the car you're working on. If you're trying to do body filler on something that has that, usually what I try to do is an acid that eats the rust out, clean it all, get some primer in there. I don't use a rust encapsulator, so I don't have enough information on that to give you a good answer. But my impression is it's a very hard paint, and it's hard to get something to stick to it because of that. So, anybody else have any advice on that? By all means. Charles, I'm going to stick with Joe Daddy's no runs. Yeah, it's a tough thing to replicate. It really is. Jerry, my restoration has a new engine build, E-Pass, vintage air, all the metalwork, and I still have to purchase a new interior, which is about $5,000 more, so it's last. Yep. Ray, the thing about spending money to rebuild a car, you probably wouldn't get it all back, but you'll have an awesome car to enjoy. That's exactly right. It's the thing about enjoying the car and having the how do I put it? Having the satisfaction of knowing that you did that and it turned out the way you wanted it. That's really the good part about it. And you talk about spending money. I've talked about this car right here. I've brought it up quite a few times. There's no way that I'll ever get any return on this car, and I don't want to. That's not the point. I actually mentioned this to Rick Schmidt at NPD. I said, yeah, I've got this car, my brother's car, and it's pretty rough, and I'm not going to restore it. And for those reasons, I said I could dump easily $35,000 in that car, and it's worth 12 when I'm done. And he brought up a valid point, and not that I'm going to use this as a mental leverage for myself or anything, but he says it's about your reason for doing what you're doing. So to him, he brought that in as it's not about the money at that point. Like if you're doing it, like in this car, in a sense, I could justify spending that money on that car. because it's a connection to my past. It's a connection to my brother. It's a connection to my dad, even my uncle. So there's a lot of value in that is just built into the process. So that's in any of these cars that we're doing this sort of thing. You can look at it and go, well, this is why I want to do this, because it's part of me, it's part of my history, it's part of something that I've always wanted. And what's it cost? Well, it doesn't matter. I want that satisfaction. I want that feeling of accomplishment. I want to have it for myself. And that may be a kind of a selfish approach. It may be, but I understand it. I get it. And I could very easily just flip a switch and go, yep, I'm going to do this because of that. But I also know in my case that the car itself, well, I already know my brother had done mods to it, and there's been things changed, and I don't feel like he would have any problem like with me putting a Mustang 2 suspension under that. I don't think he would have any problem with that, because he knew as well that the stuff that's under there is fairly sketchy to begin with. And had he had the resources, he probably would have done the same thing. But I know he just pushed his car aside because he had so many other things to work on, as I do too. So yeah, there is value in what you end up with, and sometimes the cost is fully justified in doing that. So good point, Ray. Rick, it cost $30,000 to fix my '65 coupe after the great tree collision of 2021. Yeah, it adds up. Charles says, I feel your pain, Nick, and ditto on suspension, steering, brakes, and fuel system. Yep. Evan Berry, North Alabama here. I have free coffee. Well, that's not bad. North Alabama. You start throwing in some ribs or something, we might be better off. Woofdom. Care to expand your radius to Australia? You know what? I want to go to Australia. I really do. And I know I can get there. I have some resources that can get me there and back. And I would love to go there. I know there are several of my viewers, I don't know how many, but there's quite a few who've been on here. They've commented, they've been part of it, and I would love to go over there and just see the cars and meet some of the viewers and stuff like that. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I would like to do that. So welcome, Woofdom. Glad you're here. Jerry, so the elephant in the trunk, are you going to charge a rate for the help? Actually, that really wasn't on my agenda, to be honest. My thought process on that is I will likely cover my costs completely. So like my, driving to wherever I'm going, setting up the camper, all those sort of things. And because I'm going to film it and, have them participate and everything like that, I doubt that I could make any, I don't see myself charging for that, because they're kind of helping with the process of creating content for the channel. Now, am I going to turn down food? No. Something like that. I'm pretty easy to go on that sort of thing. But I can't sit there and say, yeah, I'm going to charge you X number of dollars just because I showed up at your place. Not in this scenario. Now if I had something else going on that somebody asked me to like locally come help them, that might be a different thing too. If I'm not filming it, you know what I mean. There's going to be some expense involved with that. But at this point, I don't see any. I can't justify charging somebody if we're going to be making content and stuff. So good question, Jerry. Nick, I'm not worried at all about getting my money back for it. Never intend to get rid of it, nor do I believe I would. It's most likely the last thing I'll work on with my uncle, and a lot of work. Well, that's worth something right there in itself. And Nick says, the shop told me it would be a 160 to 170K resto to do everything I've done. So it's at least cheap in that respect. If there even if there's even a way to justify it. Okay. Well, you already know you're investing, really, when it comes down to it. And I'd hate to ever see you get in a position where you had to sell it, but you know that if that were to something catastrophic happen, you have that in your back pocket. Doyle, I've used a wire wheel and applied the rust cutter on all the areas and killed the rust on spots of the floor pan. I am not replacing. Okay. So if you're doing that on the inside, I guess the inside, talking about the floor pan, I think you're talking about, applying filler or something on top. I don't know that there's any benefit to that. If it's a floor pan, you're not, other than a cosmetic look, it's not going to help anything. It'll just be there, just be sitting there. Nick, Evan's Garage, talking to Nick. Yeah, I've had to think about some purchases. For me, it's a hobby, and even if I don't get money back, it's about the project and experience. Keep with it, and you'll have a great ride. Yes. Dave Britton. I think start restoration on your dream car and never finishing it would be far more hard on someone mentally than the worry of the money spent doing it. That's a good point. That was one of the things that, let me give you a better bell. There we go. That was one of the things, I was super, super, super frustrated with the Brooklyn Pony project. I mean, you talk about having a goal, a vision, a final destiny on a project. And I was trying everything I could to get the owner to provide me parts, to get me, keep me moving on that project. And the really bad part, that project, while it did help build the channel, it also helped tank the channel in a sense, because I was having some great views and following and all these sort of things. And then I couldn't finish it. I could not finish it. And I've had people give me grief about that in a sense by saying, how about you finish something? And I get it. I was angry and frustrated with the whole concept at that point, because I was like, I'm pouring my heart into this thing and I'm not getting the return I need. I'm not getting the end results that I'm looking for, because I wanted to make that car done, and it just never happened. I'm still frustrated about it. Nick, I will say a positive of this all is they still let me work on things that I want to while the car is there, like my console and such. That's not body related. I did modify my balance myself. Oh, Valance. Sorry, Valance. Got it. Yes, and that thing turned out pretty nice from what you sent me. Let me. I might get Robert in here. I just saw that he had sent me a link, an email. So I'll send an email, and we'll see how it goes. Okay. And Nick, I couldn't grasp how to tell them what I wanted, so yeah, I've been working on it myself some. Yeah, and I like what you've done now. I know you and I went back and forth with some pictures and some visuals and some whys and whatnots, and I think the end result's going to be really cool. I've never seen a Valance like that, and that's a good thing to say. Like, you look at cars and you see what people have done, and you're like, oh, that looks the same, and then you see something a little bit of a difference, and it turns out really nice. Woofdom. Cool, my 68 coupe got delivered about an hour ago. See you soon. Okay. Evan's Garage. Ribs? Done and done. Yeah. Well, I won't say you should have maybe some American-made beverage as well. American, oldest brewery in the U.S. Just saying. Dave, there's a good possibility that an on-the-road channel like you were describing could really make the channel grow like mad. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Again, the idea is if I can make this all kind of work out, is during what we'll say the summer months, try to do as many of those as I can, and then in the winter months be back in here. When it's colder and you're not wanting to travel so much. Hopefully that will work. We'll see how it goes. there's a lot of logistics that need to be hammered out to make all this happen. But that's I see it. I see it, Robert. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Dave, looking forward to those videos. Yes, thank you. Don's Manufacturer, after 2+ years working on Betsy, part of me wants it to just be over. I get weary at times. Yeah, I've said it before, Don. What usually happens, I tell my wife that I'm starting to hate this car. Like I work on something, and I'm on it for a long period of time, maybe a year, 2 years, whatever. Depending, for the Brooklyn Pony in this case, and I've done this with everything. It doesn't matter if it's somebody's car I'm doing it for or one of my own. I'm starting to hate this car, and she knows that means I'm almost done because I can't take it anymore, and I got to get it finished. Let's see, Nick. Yeah, I think the Roadshow is the best idea you've had yet. You've got to tell a story with people's vehicles. It's a good idea, bud. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, that's going to be the fun part of it. Is interacting and getting the stories and what they're doing and why and all that sort of stuff. Leonard says, Wolfram the XA Falcons is my favorite Aussie Ford with a 351 Cleveland. Michael Pagliarini, I agree with it not being all about the money. For me, it's garage therapy. My way of letting go of all the BS life sends my way. 7 years dry now. Try it. Like to keep it that way. Awesome, Michael. Kudos to you, sir. Kudos to you. Let's see. I'm going to pull up Robert, get him on. And let me see if I can get this to where. There we go.
Can you hear the air conditioner?
Can you hear mine?
No.
Then I can't hear yours.
Okay.
Of course, I can't hear anything. So
I'm surprised because mine's really noisy. But
let me see what we have here before we get too far. Wolfed my sold my XA GT about 10 years ago to Leonard. Says love that car. Nick says congrats, Michael. Yes, definitely.
mm-hmm.
Charles Busby, Pour 15 can be top coated after it's cured, but you must prep every square inch, and if you miss a spot, well, it won't be pretty when it bubbles. Good point. Nick says I'll send it to you, I guess, to share it. Are you talking about the pictures of the? Yeah. Okay. Okay. While I download that, Robert, what are you working on?
I finally got rested up.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
That was a long trip. I'm going to finally get everything 2K primed. I'm going to probably 2K prime everything and just go ahead and do the dash and interior stuff. Let that set up secure, and then I'll mask it off, and that way I can play around with the outside. And put 2K on, take it off. Put it on, take it off.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that before my trip, a couple weeks ago, but weather and timing just didn't work out.
Yeah, you're talking about your trip to Greece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I did see a 65 on the streets of Greece, just parked on the street. It was somebody's Bailey driver.
Yeah, that's.
And there was no dents, there's no scratches, nothing on it. It looked really good.
Yeah, I remember seeing a picture of it. It was pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show you this since we were talking to Nick. This is his Valance that he has. Let me pull down his comment quick so you can see it all. Here you go. So, what's hard to see in that picture, because I know it's small on my screen, he's put vents inside of the license plate opening to the backup lights. Now, these aren't going to be for the exhaust. That's just to relieve air pressure. So like if you're running down the track, that isn't creating a scoop effect. It's not pulling you back. It's letting the air go through those vents, which I think is a pretty cool idea. The honeycomb in there is inside of that,
mm-hmm.
and it's different. It is definitely different. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah,
but it's
that whole rear valance is just it's a big parachute across the back of the car.
Basically, yeah.
All it's doing is catching air.
Yeah. You don't think about it that much, but that's what it does. I know if like Smokey Unic was involved, that thing would be tucked all the way up underneath the axle.
Or he would just rip it off entirely, just leave it off the car.
Well, I don't know. Smokey was one to make sure he kept the shape of the car,
Yeah, it's true.
but he did all kinds of cool stuff underneath to make it,
Yeah.
make it flow.
Yeah, he'd probably just skin the whole bottom of the car and call it done.
Yeah. Leonard says no California, here I come. Yeah, talking about traveling, probably not.
Well, after seeing how much gas it took just to make that trip, that's going to be a pricey trip to go that far.
We get to go that far, yeah. Now I don't know exactly again what kind of mileage it got. We're talking basically an F450 chassis with a brick on top of it and a V10.
Mm-hmm.
Now you were there. We 55 to 70 was kind of the
Yeah.
end result, and of course the faster you go, the more resistance you get, which means lower mileage. But I've had a couple people ask me, and I said I have no idea because we didn't have a zero to start with.
No,
Just
it was
hit the road.
It was just put enough in it to get to where we're going, and
Yeah,
and then not have a heart attack when you see the number on the pump.
yeah. So Leonard says he's a future snowbird. Okay. Nick, pretty dang good stream today, by the way. Been almost therapeutic to hear others' struggles. Yes. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad we're helping, Nick. I mean, we all have our problems, and it's good to talk about them sometimes. It's okay. We're all together. Because I know it. I know I get, like I said, I get to the point where I hate this car. So Charles says, do a complete J Daddy's Garage vinyl wrap, tax deductible motorhome wrap, expenses and all. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter if it's a complete wrap or not, to be honest. It can just be my logo on the door. Just like anybody who's got a landscaping business or anything like that, they have their logo on it somewhere. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. So that's one thing that I'm trying to take advantage of. Let's see, Don. I'll do ribs. Oregon isn't that far. not by air.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't bring you ribs out with me. I just if I get we could have timed it out right. I could put them in a bag. I could put dry ice. I can get them on the plane. I can bring them. It just isn't going to work out this time. So
Yeah. Well, and that we met in Florida, so a little bit out of the way.
Yeah. Now, had they brought the RV to the airport and it timed it out, then we could have just put the ribs in the oven and warmed them up while we were going to the RV.
Yeah, that could have worked.
It worked.
Wolfdom, for those that don't know, the XA GT, think of the original Mad Max film, is what he's trying to say, and the black Interceptor Coupe, not dissimilar to the XA. Yes. Yeah, I would take one of those.
Extremely rare car.
Yeah. Well,
Even
it's
with rare car.
and in some sense, it kind of mimics the big Gran Torino shape.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think I've seen people take those and like repaint them or modify them to make them look like the Falcon or XA or whatever.
It has the same shape of the quarter panel when you're looking down the side of it. It's very
Yep.
similar.
Yep. Donnie Roebuck is talking to Dawn. Planning and ordering started. Wait a minute. What? Talking to Dawn's manufacturer. Planning and ordering started in late 2017. First trail ride in late August 2021. We must be missing something. Because I know Donnie has an off-road stuff he does. So I don't know if that's what he's talking about with Dawn or not. And Nick says, "Oh, we're talking about the therapy." You know what, Nick? Here's the thing. I'll give you this kind of as you keep this in your back pocket. I had my brother was 6 years older than me, right? He's passed away. We all know that. And my brother used to mess with me all the time. Whether it was intentional or not, I'll just have to say it was more than likely. But I would start to get upset about something or complain about something. And he honestly didn't care. But what he would say to me when I would say, "Oh, this is so hard," or "This is difficult," he would just like, "How does that make you feel?" Right? That's what he would say. And then I would say, "Well, it makes me feel so and so." And then he would say, how does that make you feel? And so it just became this cycle. And you're trying to find this answer to answer his question, and it was always the same question. It was like, you know what? It really doesn't matter, does it?
Yep.
So that was, and the other thing he used to do to me, which would get me fired up, and still to this day will mess with me, is if I was working on something and I would start saying, I'll never get this done. There's too much to do. I'll never get it done. And he would just say, well, you might as well just quit then. You'll never get it done. And that's all you have to say. You'll never get it done. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll get it done now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the motivation.
Yeah.
But you talk about cars that you hate working on. There was one that I really hated. Cadillac 4100. You know that engine.
Yeah.
And those things had the funny little rockers that were these cast aluminum things. They were prone to breaking. And this guy had two of these cars. And he said, hey, and I knew this guy was really nice. And I changed the camshaft out for him on one of them. A couple of weeks later, he says, well, you do the other one for me. I did it. Just after that, it's like, never again. Never again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 100-something degrees. I was out in the sun doing it. No. Those are horrible cars.
Yeah. Jerry's saying, I can tell you I pull a 15,005 or fifth wheel and about 10 miles per gallon is a good day. So the only difference is the price of gas versus diesel. Yeah, that is true. And we know diesel's not cheap.
No. And I like diesels, but when you look at the price of the diesel engine and then the price of the fuel, it's getting
It's
unless
right.
you're towing, 20,000 pounds plus and, really something really heavy and doing it a lot.
Right.
Just go with the gasoline. For number one.
The Dawn says, hi all, extremely late. Glad to hear, Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry says we have a place in Fort Worth that decals cars and such, I think.
Oh, yeah. She's talking about there's a place over by one of the burger places. And they'll do everything from wrapping a car to doing the big commercial stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They'll print up anything you want. And
Yeah.
they do pretty nice work from what I've seen out there.
Well, I was, like I said, I was thinking about just on the magnet on the door that says on the road with Joe Daddy's Garage.
And it'd have to be on the door of the front
Yeah,
door.
it would have to be on the door of the cab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's steel.
Yeah, but that's what I was thinking because keep it on there. But if I need to take it off, I can.
Yep. At certain times you don't want that on there.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to have somebody go, oh, wait a minute, I know there's stuff in that.
Exactly.
Because I even had debated on, and this doesn't probably make much difference. I've had Joe Daddy's Garage, and I can't get rid of that. That's always going to have to be there. But part of me was going, I forget what triggered this thought, but should it have just said Barry's Garage? So simple. But I'll have to keep Joe Daddy's Garage because everybody knows that.
It's like, okay, my channel name, she really came up with it. But I've had the thought that, eventually you might change it to the Infernal Craftsman. Because there's a lot of times when you're working on stuff that everything you touch turns to crap.
Oh, yeah.
You know those times.
Oh, yeah.
How hard you try, it just doesn't go well.
Yeah. Leonard says, Wolfdom, some guy in Oregon bought 3 and had them shipped here to his shop, waiting to see how they go. That would be cool. And Leonard says, yep, the 70 to 71 Torinos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Dawn sent you to Pixbury from Visit Southern PA, Broncos, and a 54 Chevy 3/4 ton. Okay. Well, let me see if I can.
Oh, and I think you're right on that guy's name from England. I think you're right, but I could.
On Kenny?
Yeah, I think it was Kenny, but I could be wrong too. 'Cause I'm bad with names. But if he shows up here, it's a direct flight from here to Heathrow. If I got a place to stay, I got baggage. I can, empty bags. I can put stuff in, and
Yeah. I mean that you might have a side business.
Yeah, I could do that. Just have it delivered to the house, and I'll bring it out for you.
I mean, I don't know. Like he said, it was cheaper for him. He said to fly over here, fill up a suitcase, and fly back, I assume suitcase.
It doesn't surprise me because the shipping is just ridiculous on stuff. Uh, and I don't know what he would be paying for a round trip ticket. I have no idea.
Yeah, maybe he has a discount, or
Yeah, maybe British Air or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the Dawn had sent you some pictures from a visit to Southern PA. So there's a horde of Broncos in various states of disrepair, and a '54 Chevy 3/4 ton. That would make nice patina truck right there.
Yes, I would like that. That would.
Leave it just the way it is.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Hold on. Wolfram says the coupes are fetching $180,000 to $250,000 for the XA Falcons.
Yeah.
Leonard says, "Wow, yeah." Jeremy, love the channel. Working on a '65 fastback. Well, welcome, Jeremy. I have not seen that name before. Glad you're here. Feel free to participate. Donnie says, my last comment is related to the length of time we spend building projects. We hate them at some point, but love them when they're done. Okay. Yeah, I was a little confused, but yeah, he says, so planning and ordering started in late 2017, first trail ride in August. So 4 years in the process of building his off-roader. So thank you, Donnie, for that. Dawn's Manufacturing. Caddy HT 4100 stands for huge turd. I worked for Cadillac 78 to 84.
Yeah, the 4.1s, the 4.5s. Well, and the sad part is, like anything else, by the time it was at the end of its generation, they finally worked out all the bugs and actually turned out to be a pretty decent engine. And then it's like, as soon as and that's played with a lot of car companies, they finally get the engine, we got it figured out. It's canceled next year.
Now, what was the one engine? I think it was in this first generation. I don't know if they still do it. Chevy Colorado, the 5-cylinder.
Yeah.
And I remember reading on that they put it on a dyno or something and ran it for the equivalent of like 500,000 miles, and nothing changed, and they were like,
Well,
okay.
Ford did the same thing with the EcoBoost, and same results for both of them.
Yeah.
But that straight 5 was, I want to say, it was like one of the tallest straight engines that they'd ever made. I want to say it was 40-something inches tall or something.
Oh, really?
Some ridiculous amount of inches tall.
Wolfman says, Leonard, I told I just found one fully stored for $335,000. That's Australian. I don't know what that translates over to.
I looked it up recently, but I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Just left since then.
Nick says huge turd. Colin Haverty, also super late, too busy putting the engine together. What a pain. Well, glad you're here, Colin. Don't be bragging about your new engine.
Of course, so I got to give Cadillac a little bit of credit. The 472 and 500, those were great engines.
Sure.
Big block engine. It was a relatively light engine, durable. And when they existed in junkyards, that was the thing. You bought that and you put it into your big block car. Because
or
great engine.
Or you could be like my brother and put the Cadillac engine on the back of his trike. Yeah. Yeah, he built a trike with a Cadillac 5 something.
Yeah,
512 or something.
472 and a 500.
Well, this might have been a later version. I don't know what, but yeah, he built one with the Cadillac engine on it.
Yeah, and then they were fuel injected as well in some of them.
Yeah.
Way back then. Yeah.
But he wanted to prove a point, so he built his trike with a, big.
Well, it's lighter than a 454, so
yeah,
it's not so bad.
Evans Gross says, cheers, everyone. Have a great night. Glad you're here, Evan. Leonard says, how low did they make the XAs? I'm not sure about that one. Nick, well, 335,000. What are the fastbacks going for down there? Well, the thing is that the Falcons, those are the ones that people are like, Mad Max,
Well,
gotta have it.
But yeah, exactly. But my thing is, there's so many of the Australian cars, no matter what brand you're looking at. When you look at those, it's like, why couldn't we have those here? They had some cool cars.
Yeah.
It really had some cool cars that would have sold well here, very well. And some of them, to be honest, look better than what we had.
I agree.
Really
I
did.
agree. Charles, someone you have to say, I'm good with that. Yeah, it's your trade phrase. Well, I'm happy with that. But yes, I'm happy with that. You're right. Jerry's saying that's the infernal part, Robert. Rick, I'm extremely familiar with the Midas touch in reverse. I don't know how you could S-A, is that the Satum Midas? Leonard, how long did they build the XAs? That was the question. Yeah, we'd have to have the Wolfdom answer that.
I looked that up at one time, but I think that's one of those cars. I think somebody needs to do some laser scanning and figure out a way to make at least a small run of sheet metal for them or something, or at least enough body metal to get put onto something else and just make something kind of a kit car kind of thing.
Yeah, I could see that.
Something along those lines, because there's a lot of people around the world that would love to have one.
Next is always talking about the XAs. Misunderstood. Yeah. Wolfdom. Nick, unrestored about 50 to 80K and fully restored over 150K Australian. Leonard, Barry, I met two guys from New Zealand that came here to buy their HDs and had them shipped because it was cheaper to buy here than to buy them there. Not surprised. Now I don't know what or Harley Davidson's, I guess, is what that is. I wasn't thinking right. Harley Davidson's. Now I don't know what the import tax situation is on stuff like that. I know that anything that comes into that country has to be inspected and passed. And we had I forget who it was now. We had a guy from New Zealand that used to come on here, and that became his job, was doing that inspection work for vehicles coming in.
And some countries have huge, massive import taxes on them.
Yeah.
And I know years ago, it's some place, like some people were importing stuff into Germany and their taxes were really high, and they said they taxed you on each headlight. So what they did before they put the car in the container to ship it, they took the headlights out.
Okay.
Well, for two reasons. One, you don't have to pay tax on the headlights now, and you're going to have to buy new headlights when you get to Germany anyway, because the American ones don't meet the code over there.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, that makes sense. Phil, hi Barry. I started my project in my late 30s. Now I'm in my early 40s with a deteriorated eyesight adds to the problems. Yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, I'm not at a really bad point, but I know that it's like, well, what am I seeing? Which pair of glasses do I need in my situation? So I have some that can, obviously for close-up stuff and some for far, and I've got reading and magnifiers and all kinds of variations. But I hope that yours isn't too bad in that respect, that you're not able to see at all. But yeah, glad you're here, Phil. I don't know if I gave you a bell before or not. Ray Buckman, 1.51 Australian to $1 US. Okay, so maybe not too bad going the other way. Cargo Troy MPD video was pretty cool. Thanks for sharing. Yes, thank you, Troy.
Yeah, when I looked at the pictures, I knew there was a lot there, but then after being there's a lot more than I thought was going.
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
and they were all nothing sucked.
Well, no, I
Everything
mean,
was really impressive. Every one of them was.
Yeah.
The quality and like that the GNX that he had was looking at, it was a brand new car.
Yeah.
But what was more interesting was the guy that he bought it from had three.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I caught much of that on the conversation. I know I was trying to film and trying to get him on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was a challenge to do everything. I didn't want to just focus on him.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to kind of keep showing stuff. So
just not enough time.
Yeah. Let's see, Nick. Hey, Roberts. Say Sunday for me. Go ahead.
Sunday. Or Sunday fun day.
Leonard says, yeah, the 302 Cleveland or 302C would have been great in the Mustangs. Wolfdom, Midas touch in reverse, and we call passion fingers everything your touch okay. They made the XA for 2 years, apparently, Leonard, from what he's saying. He says, I think. Chris Greenaway, how's it going? Glad to hear Chris. Oh, Jerry says I sent you a short motor sound. Okay, so for this to work, let me see if I can do this. I'm going to have to take the microphone up towards the speaker. Let's see if it'll play. Just a second. Well, where'd it go? Give me a second. Oh, come on. I don't have that. I can't play that. Try a different approach. I don't know why it won't let me just open it up. Oh, here we go. Come on. Winding. There we go. There we go. Okay.
Good sound.
I hope that come across okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Got a good sound to it.
It does sound good. I like the rumble to it, even though it's a 6-cylinder, so it's like, what?
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, and Jade really does look as good as you guys think it looks. It does, and it sounds even better in person.
Oh, thank you. Wait till I build the next one. Rick says, I can tell you it's possible to restore a car with extremely poor eyesight. I've done it with help, but I lose the enjoyment of being able to drive the car. That's the depressing part. Yeah, I'm sure that would be the roughest part of it.
Well, there's also the other side of that. If you can't see it, then you don't realize how bad it is when you do it. So it's not really that big a deal if it's perfect or not.
Well, or
Where I'm coming from.
you go to the other direction and you have to be so, it has to be so dead on because of that restriction.
Yeah. You could go to either extreme there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're so focused on it. It's got to be perfect because you're worried about
Yep.
Yeah.
Ray says, did you guys do any part shopping while at NPD? Well, we didn't do any direct shopping. We did pick up parts that were ordered for the Mach 1 project, and also I picked up some other parts that were for somebody else locally who needed some parts, and so that turned out pretty well.
And there's all kinds of stuff I need, but I'm like, what do I get that I can put in my bag and get on the plane? And
Yeah.
I do want to check my bag. And
Yeah. Next says, thank you. Okay. Doyle, has anyone had any experience with the ACE rust stop on interior panels? If so, does it hold up? Anybody familiar with ACE rust stop?
I have a can of that stuff. I think I got a can of it on the shelf over there. It's about 25 years old. That's the extent of my use of it.
Yeah, then you don't have a can anymore.
No, I have. It's probably a nice solid clump at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. Doyle, sorry. Nick says they have this stuff called Rust Mort that works really well.
I've
heard of that.
I've never seen it. Don't know where to get it.
And Nick says sound good on the engine, and also it's basically just acid, phosphorus, I believe. Yeah, I think any of that stuff is just some sort of acid.
Yeah, it's the phosphoric acid because it leaves a iron phosphate coating behind. But that iron phosphate coating is extremely hard, so you still need to go back and scuff that to get enough hook into it. I don't use it because I'm either sanding, blasting, something to bare steel and then epoxying. So it's not a method that I use for stuff that I'm doing, just because of different workflows.
Yeah. Chris says good back to work with trainees. Okay. Glad you're here, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard, Chris, U.S. Gran Torino and Montego Gran Torino and Montego guys wish we had sheet metal for ours like the Mustangs. I'll bet.
I don't see many of either one of those cars. I mean, whether they're drivers, parts cars for sale, I just don't
I
see
know
it.
that. I think at the local cruising, I've seen one Gran Torino. That's it. And
Hmm.
I know some people who have the Fairlane, you know, the pre-runner to that Torino shape, let's say.
Hmm.
But that's about it. You don't see them. Jerry pointed out inline six, yes, on the
Hmm.
engine.
Yeah, it sounds great for him, like I said.
It does. And it says, Nick, you can get it at Walmart, I think, or hardware stores.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can't get it at Walmart, I bet you Walmart online has it
Yeah.
because they're selling all kinds of stuff just like Amazon.
Yeah. I kind of look back and forth between the two and usually go through somebody's link, you know.
Yeah. Chris says, Leo, I want both, or Leonard, I want both, but can't find any parts. Yeah.
Now, there is a place up, somebody's, mine went blank who asked about the place in San Antonio. There is a junkyard up to the north of me that it's at a drag strip. It's kind of a junkyard, and they have new steel, they have parts. Um, they get somehow they get damaged panels, you know,
Okay.
damaged panels. There's a very slim chance you never know they might have you know, that quarter panel. Um, but when I've seen what they've, you know, listed their prices at, I'm like, yeah, no. You know, it's like it's near full price for a damaged panel, or it's full
Yeah.
price for a damaged panel. But they do have a bunch of other cars there, so if you need really obscure tail lights or something or other, they might have it, but you're going to pay through the nose for it, from what I've heard.
Well, that was like a NPD. They had a big scratch and dent room,
Hmm.
but
I wasn't impressed
it
with the
was
price.
like all oddball stuff.
Yeah,
It wasn't.
yeah, it was odd stuff, and some of the pricing was like, no, I just go get a new one. I'll go get
Yeah.
that. I just don't, you know, not enough for me to buy it.
Oh wait, Ray Buckman says, okay, this seen this on TV, but have any used muriatic acid for cleaning plastic lenses?
No.
Have not seen that.
I used to have one of the old, I don't know if you said the old stuff for the buffing wheels, like on the grinder buffers.
Yeah.
It was string wheel. It was like a whole bunch of strings, and
Okay.
there's a very, very fine abrasive that you would put on that string buffer.
Oh,
Use that to buff the lenses out. But it's just like this, you know, trying to do it on headlights today. It works for a little bit, and then it's back to being, you know,
well, it's just I've used the what's the Rain-X
yeah.
kit, and it'll last for about a month,
Hmm.
and then it starts to fade out. It
Yeah.
doesn't last.
Well, and on the modern headlights, they've got a coating that's on there when the headlight's made. Once the coating's gone, there's no protection from the UV anymore.
Yeah.
Just gonna it's endless polishing it out.
So Nick was saying that it's made by SEM, so Body Shop Supply would have it too.
Mm.
Michael, Robert, are you still happy with the CPP kit, or is there something you wish you went with
I,
instead?
I have no complaints. I'm happy with it. It's going to do what I want. I mean, you know, for the price, for what it does, I'm
Yeah.
no arguments, no complaints. The only reason it's not back on the car is because the car is on the rotisserie, and I still need to go junkyard shopping and get a rear end.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get an Explorer rear end, or see if this house up the street from me that there's a. I don't know the story, but now that there's multiple vehicles in the driveway that have been sitting there for years. It used to be one of them had the hood up, and now three of them have the hood up all the time. And one of them is an Explorer, and I'm just wondering. I wonder if that could be a donor vehicle. You know, if it
Yeah.
had the right axle and the right drivetrain, and you know, I hate what you want for it, but yeah, I don't want it really steeper, and I don't want that little engine just going. So I'm
Right.
doing 373s or 411s. I want, you know, a lower numerical number than that. But
Doyle says those cars are rare too, like the Mercury Monterey. I had an '83. Haven't seen one in a long, long time. Yep. Leonard, I was the one who asked where two guys from here. Wait a minute. I was the one who saw where two guys from here in California that went there and got a '70 coupe to restore.
hmm.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
I,
talking about the San Antonio. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know anything about them. I if it's, I think if it's one I'm thinking about, I know of them. I don't know exactly where they are.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not something I've gotten into. Something like maybe I get a road trip and check it out. I don't know. Maybe fly down and go check it out. You know, you never know.
So Charles says, if one buys through your Amazon link, does it affect how you view your account online, such as checking orders and history lookup? Um,
No, it's just a well, like when I buy through your referral link. No, all it is just a referral link that just says when you click on his link, it just says basically tells Amazon that hey, this is who sent you to Amazon, and and that person will get a small percentage of the total amount that you spend.
right. I guess that's what he's asking.
Yeah, it doesn't change anything on that. But if you click on like when you click on his link, it'll take you to his his list of stuff that he recommends for stuff. You know, of which I couldn't find that face shield that you have in there, unless it was I just couldn't find it.
I may not have it listed on there. I need to put it in though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it works on anything you buy through his link, so it's not just. And what I'll do normally is I'll fill up my cart, and then I'll go back and hit the link, and then that puts the cookie in there, and then he gets credit for it.
Yeah, and what we're referring to here is I have an Amazon page. If you don't know, under I think in every one of my videos I have a link in the description box. If you use that link, like Robert was saying, if you want to order stuff from Amazon and you fill up your cart, have it sitting, and then you click on my link, then when you order that stuff, Amazon will give me a credit, like it's probably not even pennies on the dollar, back to me for getting you to that point. So if anybody does that, it helps offset anything that I'm doing. It helps me, keep doing stuff. But I wasn't sure exactly where we were going with the. Does it affect how you view your account? I don't even. I don't know if there's. I think there's a way I can see. I think there's a way I can see what people are ordering, and I think Amazon does that in order to let me know. I don't know who's ordering. It doesn't tell me any of that stuff, but it may say, "Hey, people are ordering this tape, so you may want to promote that or something like that." That's kind of how they look
You can
at
look
it.
and see, what people buy and how many are bought.
Right,
You have no
That-
idea who.
but it doesn't tell you who or what or or where or anything like that. Chris is saying there's a red Montego GT in California. That should be a rare animal. Dawn, polish those headlights and shoot with 2K clear, lasts longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Leonard, Chris checked with NORAM. They're putting out some sheet metal for our cars. So, NORAM, I've not heard of them. Could be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Doyle, Robert, have you ever been to Brown's Auto Salvage in Texas?
I don't recognize the name.
Yeah.
I may have been. I don't recognize it offhand.
Jerry says use 3,000 grit wet and the 5,000 grit wet, and then 10,000 grit to clean up the headlight plastic lens, then polish.
I find it easier just to go to eBay and buy new headlights and put
Yeah.
it in there. And for $50 to $100, I got a pair of brand new ones that I never have to mess with again.
Yeah, until you look for like my little Honda Fit, and
Yeah.
they're not that cheap. That's what sucks about it.
Yeah. Or like the PT Cruiser, I ordered one, and I ended up getting three before I got one that wasn't broken and shipping.
Yeah.
And
Chris saying,
refunded my money on that one.
yeah. Chris is saying, Leonard, mine is still stateside. I guess talking about cars. Let's see. Ray, thanks, Jerry. Not headlights, but the turn signal lenses and taillights. Okay. But I have not used any of that material to.
And I can see on a lot of older cars, just you have no alternative but to polish up what you got because
Yeah.
a lot of them are just not made and won't
Yeah.
because they're so obscure.
But he's saying yes, he's seen clear done also on lights. Leonard, there's a place in Hesperia that has one, and he won't even talk about selling it. I'll talk about the Montego, I guess. Charles, thanks. I'll try to use your Amazon link. Yeah, it's easy to do, and even if you're You don't have to fill up the basket, but you can fill up the basket and then click on my link, or you click on my link and then put stuff, whatever you want to order. So either way works.
And I've actually got it saved as I use Opera, and it's got one of my shortcuts on there. I've got that link saved as shortcuts, and I just, go straight to that.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, Chris says, about right. Jerry, yes, the replacements he got worked better than the ones that came with the car. Not surprised.
Everything I put on that car was the cheapest stuff I could buy on eBay, and was better than what Chrysler put on the car from the factory.
Yeah, not
It really
surprised.
was, sadly enough.
Car Guy Troy Autocrafter services other Ford cars other than just Mustang. They have Torino, Galaxy, sheet metal, just FYI. So Autocrafters. Okay. Thank you for that. Jerry's talking to Robert. Says 373 is the gears I have in the Mustang. I installed a T5, and if the RPMs at highway speeds are planned to be about 1,800 RPMs, if not, I'm going to 330 gears.
Yeah, well, our freeway speeds are 70 plus, so
Yeah,
so you got to take that into account too.
and I don't know how much you have in the way of hills out there.
No, it's not flat. You're always going up or downhill,
Okay,
pretty much everywhere.
it's not like Florida where you just
No,
look, it's all flat everywhere.
no. You go out you start driving out West Texas. It's just like, okay, just set the cruise control and just go to sleep, and
Yeah.
you run off the road. It's like, what's that? No, oh, that's tumbleweed up here.
Yeah. Leonard, the last time I went in there, he said, "Don't even ask about the car." Ray Buckman, work Corvette parts. Everything costs more. Trying to save money. Just the word Corvette adds a percentage. Well, tell them it's a Chevette. Tell them it's actually a Chevette. They mislabeled the packaging. It should be Chevette. So let's see. Jerry, Leonard, and Chris are going back and forth. Dawn says, Jerry, I found a 350 gear with T5. 0.72 overdrive was about right.
Yeah, I'm probably going with an AODE in it, though. The PT Cruiser is the last standard transmission car that will be on the premises. It's just,
Yeah.
she's done. She's done with standards, so it's like,
Yeah. Chris says car guy Troy for 68, 9, 77, not 72, 73. Okay. Oh, we're talking about the panels. Don says with a 200 L6. Ray Buckman, yeah, he likes the Chevette comment. Chris wasn't sure, just threw it out there. Okay. Nick, I kind of want to build a Chevette. There's something about those cars that makes them interesting.
with either a lightweight turbocharged or supercharged engine, or shove a 454 in there, just have fun with it. Just really have fun with it.
I mean, it was a small rear-wheel drive, whatever.
Yeah.
Here, and this is what I think of. This doesn't make any sense at all. We all have these. We hear a song, or we hear maybe a commercial or something. It always sticks with us. You can hear part of that commercial play on radio or something, and you just remember that whole thing. And I'm guilty of that in many ways. Apparently, Longhorn used to have. I think it was Longhorn. Used to have a radio commercial where they talk about. It was like Longhorn, Longhorn, and it would say something about powder blue Chevette. Somewhere in there, it had a powder blue Chevette as their catch line, and I've always just had that Longhorn powder blue Chevette. I'm like, I don't know why that connects, but it's one of those goofy things. So Leonard's talking about there's a guy selling for 35. Dave Britton, Nick, I always wanted to build a Chevette too. Yeah.
Well, the thing with Nick and his windshield and his glass, maybe we'll just plan it. We'll just go. We'll both go up there and meet him at the airport.
Yeah.
For the glass in his car.
I don't know. I've never worked on a car with that much. It sounds like it's pretty extensive.
I'm thinking, cover everything with layers of padding and.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we have Chris and Leonard are going back and forth. I should probably let them give their emails and put those two, let them communicate, because they're both in the same thing, which is cool.
But I tell you, I have an idea for the next road trip.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, he was talking about they have some stuff at the Livonia, Michigan store
Okay.
in PD. You know, that's not far from the Henry Ford Museum.
There you go.
You know, trust me, you'd love the Henry Ford
Oh,
Museum.
I know I would.
And the problem is going to be you need memory cards and extra batteries.
Yeah. And my wife would go, "Oh, look, it's another one. Oh, look, it's another one."
Yeah.
She wouldn't have much interest in it.
No, I'd say that, you know, you and I should go up there one of these days.
It might be.
You know, it's like a 2 or 3 day trip. A day for the museum, a day for the village, and then a day for, well, there's a separate car museum too that I've never actually been into since they moved.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, they moved all the cars out, and then there's some other stuff there, and it's maybe we can like sneak across the street and like get onto the proving ground track over there.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know, nobody knows.
Doyle says a Chevette with a 305 or 2.3 would be fun to drive. Yeah, it would be. And Nick says, not going to lie, Dave, it would be cool.
How about a supercharged 3.8? You know, like out of the factories and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
Bonneville's, Bonneville and stuff.
Yeah, do something like that, convert it, put on a rear-wheel drive. It's lightweight, powerful.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Robert's saying, or Jerry's saying, 330 gears will let you drive as fast as you want.
Yeah, that's the range I'm looking. I can't remember what the Explorer has, but that's in the ballpark of what I'm looking at.
Dave Britton, I have a 78 Honda Civic. I want to put a small block Chevy in. I bought it for a parts car for my 75 Civic. That could be a challenge, but yeah.
That's an early.
What's that?
That's an early Civic.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I've noticed there's a couple for sale on Facebook Marketplace, a pair of like 75 or 76s.
Mm-hmm.
And they're selling for dirt cheap. They're like $600 or something for the pair.
Wow.
But I don't have space. I don't have time.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nick, I was replying to Dave while you guys were talking about what about my car? Y'all gonna bubble wrap it or something?
Well,
what did I ever do to you?
We're afraid of denting, scratching, getting a smudge on it.
Yeah, you gotta put foam, bubble wrap, duct tape.
It's going to take 2 weeks just to get the car ready.
Yeah.
To put glass in.
Yeah. And then you have to put on the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where's the Tyvek
well, and then we have
jumpsuits?
The jig that actually holds the glass up, you know, while we move it into place. And
You have to rent one of those from the safety glass place where they have that swing out arm
yeah,
thing.
the arm heat,
Yeah, you can't afford us. Jerry says, wait, I love the Henry Ford Museum. Well, okay.
Yeah. She likes to go like every other year, but, you know, since the apocalypse, you know, we haven't been back. So
Yeah. Race all right, Barry, and all. I got to run. Have a great night. Yeah, I'm getting pretty close to being closed up here.
Yeah.
So glad you're here, Ray. Nick says Chevette gasser. Yeah, I'm sure there's one out there. They make that one that they flip over all the time.
Oh yeah.
That one that they intentionally flip it over.
Yeah.
Destroy one every week, whatever, put a new roof on it. Rick says, are you going to bring the cat when you go on the road trips with the RV? That's debatable. Maybe not.
It's right over on the wall.
Yeah, we have that. I
Just
can't
look
see it.
inside.
Can't see it. I pointed that out earlier. Don, geez, Robert, you're in trouble now. Talking about the
So what else?
museum. Nick says, move that sucker like a Ratfink mobile. Yeah. With gasser.
Well, maybe, and the other thing is maybe if we do the Detroit trip, I'll go up. Maybe my uncle still has some of the tail lights because he made the tool and die for the new die for the 65 and 66 taillight lenses.
Yeah.
That is somewhere in the early 2000s because that was what he did with tool and die, and you know Ford owns those, you know, for the officially licensed thing with those.
Right.
So they were getting worn out. So you know, him and his I think it was his friend that owned the shop. They made new dies for the taillight lenses, and I think they still got a few, you know, engineering samples, you know, test samples.
Yeah.
You know, when they were, you know, testing it out.
That'd be cool.
He made some pretty cool stuff like that.
Escape the City, I just watched your spray foam installation video. Did it make a difference? And do you think it would cool a metal carport? It made a world of difference in this space. I can tell you that right now. It made a world of difference. As far as the metal carport, I'm sure it would make a difference. You have to look at what the restrictions are. I know that there's some issue could be with the spraying it directly to metal. I don't know for sure. I don't know if there's any conflict chemically or anything like that. In my case, I sprayed straight to wood, and I have to be careful to make sure that there's no leaks, because if I ever have a leak, I may not see it. So I have to keep up with the roof and that sort of thing. But I've heard of people doing it with the metal carport, and I could see that it would definitely make a difference.
When
It
it's
would.
like, and it's like here, you can see this is my insulation here.
Yeah,
It's just wrapped over the frame. And I'm working on a video because I'm fixing that in the shop to make it bearable. And right here is a 2x4 that basically I'm going to put, these ribs, 2-foot thinners, all the way, cover the whole ceiling, cut that plastic loose, let that existing insulation puff out, add another 4 inches insulation, and put drywall or something on it.
yeah,
I don't know what yet, but put something up there that, because like I said, you remember when we were at MPD, you could feel that heat coming down.
yep,
Okay, just imagine that the roof is only 4 or 5 feet away from your head.
Right.
That's what my shop feels like.
sure.
Even on a nice day, it's that infrared heat that hits you. And
You almost need like another roof above that roof, so you have an air pocket between. Tact is resistant.
I win the lottery and I'll put the solar panels on the roof, and that'll work.
There you go.
Make power and keep the sun off.
Rick Ain, how about a Ford Fiesta with a 3.6 EcoBoost? That could work too. Roger, I'm sorry I missed the motorhome trip, but I went in on a Henry Ford Museum trip. Well, if it happens, we'll get you in on there.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I told Barry, it's like, I was worried. It's like, I hope I didn't take your spot.
Yeah. Well, it worked out. Chris is talking to Leonard, where you located, and Leonard says, got to go, a bad storm coming in, night all. All right. Glad you're here, Leonard. Appreciate participating. Dave Tyson had a Chevette, was a tin can. Yes, it was. Dave Britton, when I was a kid back in 68, that we visited the Henry Ford Museum, I found it amazing that all the toilets flushed with a button on the floor so you didn't have to touch the toilet handle. That's a great idea.
And I'll tell you, it's a beautiful building. And even when you go into the bathrooms, it's like the marble and the woodwork and everything.
Yeah.
Bathrooms are worth visiting just because they're not that nice. But it's the village is far better now than it ever has been.
I'll bet.
They took stuff out. So
Nick says he'll buy the pizza, the good stuff. Yeah. Not Papa John's or Domino's or trade name. It's Little Caesar. No. Rick, if you decide to take the cat, make sure you bring him back home. Yeah. I don't know what happened, honey. Nick, typical kid goes to a museum and the thing that catches his attention is the throne. Rick Stevenson, buried the junkyard with the possible 1974 truck cab is A&B Auto Salvage in Griffin, Georgia. Well, you know what, Rick? Come on by. Griffin, Georgia is less than 20 miles away from me. So if you need a cab, we can work it out. I've got a trailer. We can work it out. Yep.
And I would ask the guy that I know, but he won't part with anything. And I know he's probably got dozens of cabs. He's just one of those that'll he's going to collect it for years, and then it's going to be somebody else's problem to get rid of it.
Right. Well, seriously, Rick, Griffin is right down the road from me. It is not far at all. So we can work something out there. This is Troy saying, Car Guy Troy, Rick at MPD seems like a nice guy. He's on the muscle car, plays podcasts every month. Good listening. Yeah, he was definitely down to earth. Nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
Easy to talk to. Not puffing his chest out or anything like that. So,
and the fact he can remember all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot to remember.
Oh, let's see. Escape the city. I'm using a carport for a sheep shed, and it's getting too hot. Hoping the foam insulation helps. It'll help. I just don't know, again, if there's any. Talk to your foam people. Find out if there's anything that can be a problem, but it should be fine.
There are some other coatings they can do with the reflective coating, so that way you block some of the radiant heat from coming down. It's
Yeah.
more radiant than it is actual insulation. And in that kind of situation, radiant is the bigger issue.
Nick is saying, how long did you stomp on the button, Dave? I don't know if y'all heard that. That sounded like a shotgun. Hope not. Roger says, Robert, you didn't take my spot. I had already taken time off for the 500 and had to take care of some stuff here. Yes.
Yeah, that's what Barry said. I thought Barry at the time was like, yeah, I hope I didn't take his spot.
Yeah. Rick says, I'll let you know when I can get up there. Okay. Well, and I can probably store it for a period of time if need be. I mean, I can make those arrangements. So not a big deal. But yeah, I'm getting ready to sign off as well. I gotta get in the house. It's already going on 2 hours. So I'm gonna let you go, Robert.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
But thanks for being here. We'll catch up again. See you. Okay. Always nice to have Robert on here, participating. Let's see, Nick. I'm hopping off. Good night, guys. Yes, I'm going to call it a night, too. Dave Britton, I actually got in trouble from my dad because I was stomping on every button in there. Yeah, that sounds like what my son would do. Like if we went to the Air and Space Museum up in D.C., and they have these like video things that can tell you stories about what's going on, and he would just hit the button, and it would start telling a story, then he would hit the button, and it would start the story again, then he would hit the button. And I'm like, just stop. Just stop. And Roger's talking about his shop has the bubble reflective insulation, and it does make a difference. Okay, so I'm going to call it a night. Again, thank everybody, or thank you all for being here. It's always good to have input and talk about stuff and see what's going on around the area. I do plan to have another video coming out by this weekend. I will say that I found the lost footage for the removal of the aprons where I had the GoPro. I have all that. I don't know if I want to make another video that is a crossover. I don't know if I need to, but I have considered doing that. But for now, I'm focusing on the frame rails and of the existing, the new ones and stuff like that. So anyway, that's it for tonight. I'll be back next Monday if the world doesn't collapse and we all perish. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.